The colossal conversation that changed my life forever. Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9 to 5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising. The colossal conversation that changed my life forever is definitely inspired in a real life event that happened to yours truly. And I can't believe I've never taken the time, I've actually invested the time to share this with you, because this single conversation radically changed my life forever. And so I want to go back. This is probably now, well, I'll timestamp it. It's 2008. So it's 2008, and I am going into a sales review, forecasting review with my boss at the time, and this was just one of those things that this was my POC, my proof of concept. I talk about it all the time, and everyone has a proof of concept when you're on this journey. And this is the one for me. And this is why this colossal conversation changed my life forever. Because as I'm going into this sales meeting, I'm thinking that I'm going to have to give my forecast. I probably got some butterflies going on in my stomach. I'm sure that my nose was sweating because my nose sweats a lot. My forehead was probably transpiring. And this is towards the latter part of the year. So this was in the spring of 2008. So I'm going into this meeting and I'm expecting to meet with my boss. We're going to talk about my sales team, how we're performing, what we're going to do, how we're going to overachieve. I'm sure that I had a backup plan and a backup to the backup plan and all that kind of good stuff. But the thing is, as you're having these moments, I was like most people that I wanted to get to a place where I didn't have to depend 100% on my day job. I just didn't know it yet. And then at the end of the day, just like most people, at that point in my career, I wasn't even married yet. I didn't have any kids, but I was already thinking about retirement, and I wanted to be able to retire easily. Believe it or not, we start thinking about retirement before we even have kids, and many times before we even start living, which is kind of a whole different topic. Maybe I'll get into a whole different podcast on that at some other point in time. But back to this conversation. So we're having this conversation, and why this colossal conversation changed my life forever, because as we're going into my forecast, my sales, how much money we were going to be bringing in from my team, all of a sudden my boss pivots. It's like, and he's like kind of starts talking about something else. Sorry if that screeched in your ear. Did not mean to scare you. But here's the thing. So my boss at the time starts talking about something called financial arbitrage. I'm like, what are you talking? I didn't even understand the words financial arbitrage. So he then helps me to understand. And so I'm going to share that with you because I like to learn and share. But financial arbitrage basically meaning that you're earning in one currency, euros, and investing in another currency, in this particular case, in pounds, in British pounds. And so the whole concept behind this is all of a sudden he starts telling me about the way that he is actually using his paycheck in euros to invest in real estate back in the UK, back in Scotland. And I'm thinking, this seems really weird. Like, he's living in one place, he's investing in another, he's buying these assets, because I didn't even really know that people bought real estate at that point in time. Just to give you some insight into where I come from, like what my background is. And so then I started realizing, like, okay, so he's explaining this, but the thing that I started really understanding was, wow, he was actually, like, he was my boss, and I know that my salary was a pretty good one at the time, and like his was even way better than mine. And I was thinking, well, if he's earning all this money, why in the world is he even thinking about doing something else outside of this? Like, this is, well, I won't say what I learned, but it's a very particular UK British phrase that they say, and it has to do with a dog. But we'll just leave it at that. Anybody who knows what I'm talking about, you're probably smiling, you're probably laughing. But I was just thinking to myself, wow, this is unbelievable. The fact that he is earning a lot of money, he's got all this responsibility, and he's still using his currency, his money that I thought about at the time, to invest in something somewhere else. So this whole concept just kind of blew my mind. And I started thinking about, well, yeah, I could actually do that. And this could get to the point where this is something else, like it would go beyond what I was doing in the trading in the stocks and stuff like that. Very, very simple trading. I don't know if I'll ever do an episode on that, but it was a major life lesson after I'd spent many, many years investing to get actually no movement. But anyway, what I started realizing is, like, okay, I've got this day job. I've got a job. I'm working. But if my boss is doing this, like, and if he could do it, then I know that I could do it. Because this was like, wow, it seemed like he was investing. He was making money. He was controlling these assets. And he was talking to me about how this was his future retirement plan. And I was like, what? it just completely went beyond anything that I had ever thought about. So I knew that I had to actually sit down. I knew what I wanted to do, but here's the thing. I didn't know where to start. And the reason I didn't know where to start is because I was staying obedient to my corporate role, right? Staying obedient to my corporate role. I did a whole episode on this. If you want to go check out episode 451, and I talk to you about that. So I'm not going to spend time here talking to you about that. But if you want to check out episode 451, it will give you more insight to like my whole staying obedient to the corporate role. It was basically ruining my life, but that's a whole different thing. So the thing is, since I didn't know where to start, I then figured out, all right, well, I got to create this thing myself. So I started my own plan, and I put together this plan and said that I was going to have a certain number of doors. And I did that many years later, right? I'll tell you about how I finally got to that. But originally, since I didn't know where to start, I was kind of stuck. So what I decided to do, which is what most perfectionists or now recovering perfectionists do, is I wanted to go learn more. I wanted to go out and I wanted to read upon all of the things that I should be doing. Like, even though my boss told me about what he was doing, I should have asked him more at the time, but I was just a little bit too afraid because I was like, you ever seen it was like I was one of those thoroughbred horses, like when you're an A performer in a big company, you've got the blinders on, right? You got the blinders on and you're just going so fast, like you're looking to win the race and you don't look to the left, you don't look to the right because you just want to keep going. That was me. And so in order to not look to the left or the right, I thought, well, I'll just learn more. So I started listening to podcasts, reading books. And that never really took me to any of the movement. But I had this, I guess internally, I had this kind of conflict that was going on because I knew that I couldn't break from the dependence that I had on my corporate benefits. Like, even though it sounded really cool, like I was struggling inside. I was like, yeah, but then that means I would leave all this really cool comfort and benefits and all this really cool stuff. And it's something that happens to most people because I had a powerful addiction to the corporate benefits, right? And it made me settle. And if you want to know more about that, if you've ever felt like this, go to episode 466. You can check it out, 466, and I break it down for you and talk to you about exactly what happened to me. If any of that starts to resonate with you, you will understand, talk about how you can kind of move from that. But I started realizing that I was stuck. And if I didn't figure out how to become independent of those benefits from big corporate, i.e., go out and create my own benefits while enjoying the big benefits of big corporate, that I was going to be stuck. And I just didn't want that. It wasn't that I needed to do something else, because I could have just been very, like I said, I had the blinders on and I was just going for it. But something deep down in my gut was like, wow, this sounds cool. I didn't know where to start, but it was something that started to got things moving in my gut, started getting things moving in my mind. And I just am not one of those people that would continue to hold back from taking action. So I broke through that desire to want to be dependent constantly. And even though it took me 5 years, literally 5 years of learning more and afraid to actually put my own money at risk, I delayed my transformation by 5 years. But eventually I took the jump, because when my boss told me, like, it was literally that Colossal conversation when he's telling me about financial arbitrage, what he was doing, how he was preparing his future, how he was actually leveraging assets today to allow him to be an even happier employee, which was amazing to me. But later on, it made complete sense. Even though it took me 5 years, I lost, quote unquote, those 5 years of actually taking action. Like, I was a really theoretical ninja of what I should have been doing, but I wasn't taking action. And I realized that if there were things that you could do over again, it's to take action earlier so that you don't miss out on the one asset that you can never get back, which is time. That 5 years, 60 months, I could have been doing and moving forward something else. Don't know if it would have been better off, worse off, but it would have been experiential learning. But the thing that I can tell you that Colossal conversation and what it did to help me, even to this day, is once I did take action, I took then massive action for me, right? Massive action is different for everybody, but I went from attaining that 5-year goal. I had a goal for myself for 5 years to be able to create 4 figures of net income. And I wanted to be able to do that in 5 years. Once I started taking action, it only took me 1.5 years to get there. And so I realized that by starting, I could take action. I could take even more action. And then from there, it just continued to snowball into something else. And ultimately, within 6 years, I was actually optional. My role was optional. I didn't have to keep going into the job. I did it because I liked it. I was surrounded by really smart people. I was helping to solve really big problems, and I was grossly compensated for it. And so all of those things allowed me to be a better head of household, all of the things that I thought were really, really important. But the thing most importantly is not only did I create that life of optionality for myself, so I actually live it, and now I talk about it. But the thing is I realized that once I got to the point of optionality in my corporate role, then life got much better. There was a lot less stress. I was feeling as though I was contributing even more at the office, outside of the office. I had started having more free time with the family, being able to do things that I thought I would have to wait until I was 60 some years old to be able to do. And so if I think about where it was all the way to this very colossal conversation that I had, not only did I have my retirement plan under control, but I was living life. I was feeling better. People around me were feeling better. It was amazing. It was really, really cool. And so that was my initial proof of concept. That was my POC, was I talked about from before. And so that colossal conversation, the fact that my boss cared enough about me to share about this concept called financial arbitrage, and then from there, talk to me about what he was doing. And then that proof of concept sparked something in my heart, sparked something in my gut that led me to start taking action. Like I said, I tended to overthink things, analysis paralysis, fear of losing money, fear of all this other kind of stuff. And it took me longer than it should have because I didn't have a clear pathway. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid to talk to my boss. I was afraid to talk to anybody at my company or look outside. And it took me that 5 years to actually get started, to start taking action beyond theory, going into practice. That's why I talk so much about go from theory to practice as quickly as you can. Mitigating risk and surrounding yourself with people who have the experience that you're looking for. So with that, I wanted to share this colossal conversation because it's one that changed my life. I hope this is something that is a catalyst to help you to start thinking about doing things in a different way, in a new way, so that you can attain new and alternative results to what you've been doing up until this point in time. So, like I said, take today's conversation, share it with family, share it with friends, go from theory to practice, just like I did. Get there much faster. Don't take 5 years. Take today's conversation, make it a great one. And then while you're doing that, I'll be here and I'll be preparing for the next episode. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very, very much. Freedom! Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9-to-5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.